Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, and markets today were pretty flat. The initial trading hours included a bit of nervousness after Jerome Powell talked about they were in no hurry to cut rates, which makes sense. And he also expressed confidence in the economy, and that also makes sense. Obviously, looming over the markets is or are the uh, potential tariffs that may go into effect with numerous different trading partners of the United States that could cause inflation. So when you pair the fact that the economy is doing pretty okay and there's no reason to cut rates and the prospects of increased inflation from tariffs, uh, the probabilities for a rate cut tend to drop uh, as a result of all of these factors. And there is understandably some nervousness about this. All this being said, I think that what we know for sure is that Trump has really not done much in terms of tariffs. He's been quite, mild in the tariffs that have actually gone into effect. Really, there has been the 10% tariff on Chinese imports, and there's been talk about, and there's been tariffs on steel and aluminum, uh, and there's also been talks of other tariffs related to the European Union, related to Canada, related to Mexico. However, most of this has just been talks, and I think that people are going to be able to make a deal. We saw the GM CEO, was in the White House trying to carve out a exception for her company, and a lot of companies are going to do that, I'm sure. So the life will find a way, as they say on Jurassic Park. And so I'm not really that concerned about tariffs. The economy does seem to be in a rather healthy spot, especially considering earnings and how they're coming in. And if we get an inflation print that is, cooler than expected tomorrow morning, the market is really anticipating that number. Then I think that we may get a reversal in direction of the market, or we could get confirmation of where we're going if we get a hotter than expected inflation number. That being said, if we do, I think that that would be a great buying opportunity because, as I've said on this live before, the rates are coming, the interest rates cuts are coming. There's trillions of dollars that need to be refinanced later this year. And so the rates have to come, basically. And, if we get a deeper dip, a dip of the dip, so to speak, then that just means that the upside is now greater. Speaking of dips and dips of dips and dips of dips of dips, Tesla has reversed around 30% since its high in December. I think that is a good opportunity for people who are convinced with the thesis for the company, but perhaps were discouraged to buy, only a month and a half ago when the company was sporting a valuation that it never sported before, reaching close to 500 on December 17th. So if on December 17th you were asking yourself, hey, should I buy? Should I not buy? Is it too late? Did I miss it? You should definitely be interested at 328. If you were on the fence when it was 478, I think you should definitely be interested at 328. But it's funny how that works. When things are going up, you'll find a lot more. When things are more expensive, you'll find a lot more interested people. When things are less expensive, all of a sudden, investors lose interest. They start doubting their theses. They start doubting their thinking. They start listening to all the noise, all the negative comments, all the FUD, and they forget why they invested in the first place. Now, so that we're not picking on Tesla in particular, basically all EVs did pretty bad today. Rivian was down 4%. We talked about Rivian yesterday. BYD was down 2% today, even though it revealed that it was upgrading a lot of its models for free with smart driving. NEO was down 6%. Lucid, my favorite stock in the world, was down close to 3%. Biggest cash burning per unit, the pound for pound, most cash burning EV company on the planet. Bitdeer was down 10%. Bitcoin miners didn't do great. Bitdeer was no exception. In fact, Bitdeer led the pack from the wrong side. I was down 10%. Nothing has changed. There's no real material news that I think should cause, as I said, someone who had a thesis about the stock to change their thesis. What has happened is that Bitcoin has pulled back a lot, as has a lot of, relatively speaking, as have a lot of cryptos. Bitcoin is now at 95,000. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's time to panic, guys. 95,000 per token. Come on. Remember where we were. Remember where we were just 1 year ago. Remember where we were in September. We're in the 50s. So yeah, this is going to take, I think a catalyst could really, considering, and I'll show you guys in a second, considering how much short positions there are, how much liquidity or leverage positions there are, it's kind of ripe for a short squeeze. So let's talk about that for a second. First of all, the balance of Bitcoin on over-the-counter markets has been declining for years now, and it's now down close to 70-80% from where it was in 2021. The OTC market is basically a market where the big players come in, they try to do big transactions without affecting the market price. So typically, if you're trading on an exchange and you're trying to get a very large transaction through the exchange, that may impact the market price. It may not execute at an optimal price for you. So these big players use an OTC market. These desks have been draining of their Bitcoin. And that means that in the future, if this trend continues, a lot of these big players, when they want to make those big transactions, they're going to have to go do them on exchanges and get, what the exchange is going to price that transaction for them. And that could cause a lot of volatility, increased volatility for Bitcoin, and it could cause a lot of upside for Bitcoin, most importantly. So, the next time a Goldman Sachs wants to load up, they're going to have to do that on an exchange, and they may cause a pretty substantial bid on the token, which may end up burning a lot of shorts who have taken position and are always taking position. They're, the market is either burning shorts or burning longs, depending on what day it is. Speaking of Goldman Sachs, by the way, so that you're confident that you're investing like the pros, Goldman Sachs doubles down on Bitcoin ETFs, boosting holdings to 1.5 billion in Q4 2024. So Goldman Sachs is doubling down on its position on Bitcoin as recently as Q4. And by the way, asset managers with more than 100 million in assets under management have to release information about their positions after the quarter is ended. And so we get insights into what exactly they are buying. And turns out that Goldman Sachs is buying a lot of Bitcoin. So for those who think that, oh, hey, the bull run is over, well, not according to Goldman Sachs, it's not. As it relates to liquidity on, or liquidation map, rather, I should say, for Bitcoin, we can see here we're now right around 95,000, as I mentioned. This green line here, this tells you all of the short positions, and it's a cumulative line, so you can see how high the short positions go. And you can see, in contrast, the long positions here. there's a lot more shorts. The green is a lot higher and steeper for longer than the red line is. There's a lot more short positions ready for burning, as I said, than there are long positions. So it's possible if we get a catalyst, a proper catalyst for Bitcoin, like a really cool inflation print, that a lot of these shorts get burned. In other crypto news, Solana ETF filings by 21 shares, Bitwise, Canary, and VanEck have all been acknowledged by the SEC. It's very likely that we get a Solana ETF soon. In fact, if you look at Polymarket, they're putting that their approval probability for a Solana ETF at an 82% chance. So that's great. Now, I wanted to go back to Tesla and tell you why you should not panic. Because, by the way, don't panic, not financial advice. This is just why I'm not panicking. And, I hope that it's beneficial. So that I'm not accused of giving anyone financial advice. But something very remarkable happened today, which didn't get much press. Tesla just produced over 1,500 Powerwall 3s in one 24-hour period, which is up 50%, 50% from their previous peak of 1,000 just 3 months ago. So they ramped up their production of these Powerwall 3s 50% since September in this one location, since 3 months ago, rather, in this one location. So this is very noteworthy. I mean, they are ramping up fast. The chops that Tesla have in manufacturing are really rivaled by none, especially in high tech manufacturing. And this is what gets it a leg up on competition when we're talking about robotaxis, when we're talking about robots. I think that this expertise that it has is really quite valuable. And by the way, these Powerwalls, they are the most profitable product basically right now that Tesla is selling. It has a profit margin of 30%, compared with cars, which often have profit margins that are less than 10%. If you know what you're doing. Speaking of companies that don't really know what they're doing, Lucid CEO said that, hey, you know how we're making 300, 400, 500 mile EVs? Actually, I think 180 mile EVs are the future, because that's because people don't really drive that much. So it's true that you often don't, drive your car till it's empty. But first of all, people don't like to know that they're very close to, the end of their charge. Second of all, this is an option that people like to have. They don't like feeling constrained by the range in their vehicle to the point where they can't make road trips or go from one city to the next. Something like 180 mile EV would make city to city travel very difficult in EVs. And so, no, I don't think they are the future. I think the trend is correct that the ranges will continue to grow over time. What's interesting is that they're losing about $220,000 per vehicle. If so, he was, touting the savings that they could make if they reduced the size of the battery so that they only provided 180 mile ranges. We can make a battery pack, he says, for about 2,500, maybe 2,000 instead of 20,000 or 25,000. So what? That takes your loss per vehicle from 225,000 to 100,000. You still have a bigger problem to tackle. So yeah, not a big fan of the cash burning company that is Lucid. Not financial advice. Let's go to questions, guys. Simon Khan, do you see iron as a long-term play? We'll see. It's something that we're following very closely. Muhammad Khalid says, big amount of Mister in my Roth IRA, bought it in September, so I'm quite a bit now. I'm a believer in the company, but I know you don't like the company. Should I replace for Tesla? It's not that I don't like the MicroStrategy. It's just that I'm not really sure about usage of debt as part of their business model, if this is something that I'm comfortable with from a halal perspective. From a rotation perspective, there may be some there may be a lot of wisdom in rotating from Mr. to Tesla. Iron earnings tomorrow, we'll see. With your price looking juicy, that's true. Price target for iron. Look at our watch list, Khaled. I think you remember. Salam Rashad, nice to see you. And sorry for going live so late today. It's been a crazy day, but a lot of excited stuff we're working on. Powell and CPI this week, nice combo. Yeah, indeed. We'll see. And Powell will be graced with his comments tomorrow afternoon as well. More Tesla dip, perhaps. This is the time where I think it's a good idea to buy when there's a confluence of negative news hitting a stock that you believe in all at the same time. These are sort of things are lining up to give you a big discount. That's at least how I see it. Assalamu alaikum, Rakan, in your opinion, what are the new forces that started to influence the Bitcoin price? Because it seems BTC is now getting harder to predict. I don't think so. Actually, if you look at the volatility of Bitcoin over time, it's falling. So from a volatility perspective over time, it's becoming more predictable. What do you think iron earnings call tomorrow? I don't know. Sorry. Greetings from Deutschland. Thank you for everyone who is tuning in. Leave a like if you enjoyed this live, and become a PIF member if you're not already. We have a number of very shortlisted stocks that we may add to our watch list very soon. So tune in for that. As I mentioned, some cool features that we're working on as well. I hope you're doing fantastic. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.